Do y'all remember the movie Tropic Thunder? Of course you do. Ben Stiller, Robert Downey Jr. Very funny movie. I think Jack Black was in it. Very, very, very funny movie. Came out like 2007, somewhere in there. Well, so millennials and Zoomers and TikTokers, in between lip singing and dancing on TikTok, they found Tropic Thunder. They found the movie. And they dug through their Blu-ray discs and found Tropic Thunder and were absolutely outraged to find out that Robert Downey Jr. wore blackface throughout the movie. I'll repeat myself. People were outraged when they found out that Robert Downey Jr. wore blackface in Tropic Thunder. So first of all, if you've never seen the movie, Robert Downey Jr. it's like a satire on method actors. So he's supposed to be this incredible, critically acclaimed method actor who's like award chasing. So he takes this role in this movie where he plays a black man. In the movie, Robert Downey Jr. wears blackface and he's like overly acting like the person he's portraying. He won't break character. You know, it's a super obvious satire on the idea of the Jared Leto method acting, Christian Bale method acting kind of thing that we see today, where they'll take these insane roles, transform into these characters, won't seem to break character for 6 months, and they'll win some awards and they go back to being who they were. So, not a big deal. Ben Stiller's in the movie. It's not supposed to be a magnus opus for Robert Downey Jr. or anybody. And that's the whole point, right? Like, that's the whole joke, is that the movie's so ridiculous. Ben Stiller is the leading man in an army movie, and Robert Downey Jr. is playing a role of a method actor who's trying to take it way too seriously. That's the joke. It ends there. After that, it's just a Ben Stiller movie. Nothing to see here. Give me $8. Go into your movie theater. Laugh a few times. Go home. That's it. We don't need The Hill to be writing an article. We don't need Vanity Fair to be writing an article on this. But Twitter, police joined forces and were pissed to find out that this occurred. And they tried to cancel Robert Downey Jr. Now, it took them about, I'll say 10 hours. It took about 10 hours for them to realize we done messed up. We done pooped the bed. And then it kind of died. But that will not stop me from getting on my soapbox and talking about how dumb they are. So, I'm going to speak pretty frankly here. And as we do on this show, I'll preface this with saying, or as a good friend of mine, Ryan, likes to say, I will preface this by saying 99% of people who listen to this podcast are with each other on this topic. They realize satire and they realize, jest. And we've made a lot of, pretty terse jokes on here, right? We made some pretty terse jokes. We have no problem getting into that kind of stuff and pushing the limits. And so, I don't expect backlash for things like this. So I'm not speaking to any of you directly. But we will talk about this on the off chance that someone vaping in between blowing smoke rings will get some advice here. I think being offended or saying you're offended, and really this kind of goes for blackface. Now I'm not saying that I would like to see more blackface, right? I'm not advocating for blackface. It really doesn't matter to me. I don't think blackface makes something better. I don't think whiteface makes something better. But in certain cases, it's okay. Like Dave Chappelle, when he was doing the white newsman and he put on like powder or whatever and put on white hair, that's fine. Probably made the scene better. And white chicks, okay, I'm cool with white chicks wearing the weird, claymation looking masks. Cool with that. Underrated movie. So, the idea of being offended, and in this situation, being offended by blackface, in today's day and age, saying I'm offended I think a lot of people believe is like a trump card, where when you say I'm offended, you win, and the other person has to go home. It's like playing, it's like playing Uno and having the main card at the very end. Slam it down on the table, the game's over. That's the ace in the hole. I'm offended. This has to end. And I believe that I am offended is one of the most shallow, like one of the biggest wastes of sentences you can possibly have. If you say I'm offended, to me, my response would be, okay, so what? Right? And that's not to say that someone saying they're offended doesn't mean anything, but they have to have something to back it up. I'm offended should be the precursor for, I don't agree with what you're saying or what you're doing. It offends me. Here is why. Here is how we can fix the situation. It shouldn't be, I'm offended, now you must change what you're doing or whatever. And that's pretty much what it is nowadays, where if someone says, that is the whole idea of cancel culture, right? The whole idea of cancel culture is, I don't like that thing, person, movie, music. It offends me. Thus, it must be destroyed. I don't think that's right. I don't think that's correct. I think that, to quote Stephen Fry is a thinker, a great thinker who I enjoy listening to. But he says that, when people say I'm offended, he responds, well, so fucking what? It doesn't matter. So when you say you're offended, try and back it up with something. This is something I see all the damn time. As I see people will say, I'm offended, or even not offended. Just they say something. They say, oh, well, we should have. I'll use this for an example. We should have universal health care. Okay, and then me or you or whoever would say, why? And then they will say, well, because everyone should have health care. And it's like, well, yeah, that you just said that. You said everyone should have universal health care, and then your next sentence was because everyone should have health care. Why should they all have health care? And most of the time, the person cannot, they can't go past that. Just like the offended thing. It's like, I'm offended. Okay, why? Because it makes me feel bad. Okay, you just said that. You just said you were offended. Explain why it makes you feel offended. Well, because I don't like it. Again. You're just kind of saying the same thing. So when you're in those situations, whether it's something you're arguing for, whether it's something you're arguing against, whether it's something that may offend you, and things can offend you. I don't think that people should be bulletproof. That also is not appropriate, right? It's also not. On one hand, we should not have this cancel culture. We should not have where if you're offended, it's over. But we also shouldn't expect people to just be completely bulletproof, to where nothing offends them or nothing pisses them off. But if something does, do a little research or at least understand why enough to back up the original argument at all. Because I am offended is virtually saying nothing. And this is a great example of that. People saying, I'm offended. Why? He's in blackface. Why is that offensive? Because he's in blackface. Okay, why does that offend you? Because that's racist. Why? Because he's in blackface. That's like the conversation on Twitter. And that's a great example of why it's so bad. So, Tropic Thunder, trending. And it's funny because whenever it was trending, I thought it was one of those things where it's like, Tropic Thunder released 18 years ago today. And every time I see one of those, I'm like, oh my God, I am getting so old. I mean, I've seen some. I saw one, like when I think of the 90s, to me, the 90s are still like, 10 years ago. Something like that. I still think of 2000 as being like 10 years ago. And when I hear, oh yeah, this thing in 1992 is 28 years ago. It's, oh my God, what? That is so old. 22. I'm trying to think what show it was. It was something like Power Rangers, or it was a show like that where it doesn't seem like a very old show, but it was a show that I watched a lot growing up as a kid. It might have been Power Rangers, but it was like the 27th anniversary of the first episode. And that is a crazy. I hate those things. I can't stop watching them, but I hate them. If you know what I mean. Or not watch them. I can't stop looking them up. Like every time I see one, I'm like, what? I copy it, paste it, send it to all my friends, take screenshots of it. But I hate seeing them because it makes me feel so damn old.